Auction rooms buzzed. A Cartier tiara, once Nancy Astor's, fetched a fortune. But this stunning piece? It's just one clue to the dazzling, secret-filled jewel box of Britain's first female MP. She crafted her public image meticulously, but what glittering mysteries did her private collection hold? Today, we're piecing together the evidence, from recently surfaced treasures to whispers from her own maid, preparing to lift the veil on the known and the unknown jewels of the formidable Viscountess Astor. Get ready to uncover the Astor legacy in gems, the sold, the legendary, and those still lost in the mists of time. Before we begin, please support my channel by clicking on the like and subscribe buttons. Thank you. So, before we dive headfirst into the sparkle of her jewels, let's get to know Lady Astor herself a little better, shall we? Because her story is quite something. She was born Nancy Witcher Langhorne, way over in Danville, Virginia, a world away from the British aristocracy she'd later become such a prominent part of. Her path into that high society wasn't exactly typical. After her first marriage to Robert Gould Shaw II ended in divorce, she decided on a fresh start and sailed for England in 1905. And her wit and sheer energy quickly made her a name to watch. It wasn't long before she met Waldorf Astor, heir to a truly vast fortune. They married in 1906, and the wedding gifts were quite something. As a primary present, Waldorf's father, William Waldorf Astor, gifted the new couple the magnificent Cliveden estate. Can you imagine receiving Cliveden as a wedding gift with all its contents? But that wasn't all. Mr. Astor also gave his new daughter-in-law, Nancy, a truly spectacular tiara. And not just any tiara. This one was set with the legendary Sancy Diamond, a historic stone weighing over 50 carats and already valued at a staggering $75,000 back then. We will definitely be talking much more about this incredible tiara and the Sancy Diamond a little later in our story. And from the groom himself, Waldorf, Nancy received a beautiful necklace formed of 3 rows of superb pearls. So that marriage, Cliveden, and these initial magnificent jewels really opened every door for her, leading her straight into the heart of British politics and, of course, a world of considerable luxury. Nancy wasn't one to sit quietly in the background, though. She threw herself into supporting her husband Waldorf's political career. And then came a pivotal moment in 1919. When Waldorf inherited his father's title, becoming the second Viscount Astor, he had to give up his seat in the House of Commons and move to the House of Lords. And guess who decided to stand for his vacant seat? Nancy herself, and she won. On December 1st, 1919, she walked into the House of Commons, the very first woman to take her seat there. Just think about that for a moment. What a revolutionary step that was. For over 25 years, she represented Plymouth Sutton. Now, being the first, and a woman at that, she knew all eyes would be on her. The press would be scrutinizing every detail. So she made a very conscious, very strategic decision. For her work in Parliament, she'd wear a simple, almost uniform-like dark suit. She didn't want talk about her clothes to overshadow her politics or her ideas. It tells you a lot about her character, doesn't it? And her savvy. But, of course, outside the formal halls of Parliament, when the occasion called for it, well, that was an entirely different story, and one that involved some rather spectacular jewels, as we're about to see. So let's really take a closer look at this turquoise tiara, because it truly is a fascinating piece, and one that's recently made headlines. It was crafted by the legendary House of Cartier, and its story is quite layered. It wasn't created all in one go, which makes it even more interesting. The foundation, this intricate diamond bandeau, was actually made earlier, around 1915. If you look closely at that original diamond part, you can see these beautiful, delicate motifs. There are crescent shapes, little bows, and these lovely quatrefoil patterns. These are all meticulously set with a variety of diamond cuts popular at the time, including old, brilliant, single, and rose-cut diamonds, giving it a rich texture and sparkle. The craftsmanship is just exquisite, with that pierced and knife-wire detailing that lends it such an airy, almost lace-like quality. At the very center of that bandeau, there's a principal old, brilliant cut diamond, about 3 carats, that would have been quite a statement on its own. Then, in 1930, Viscount Astor commissioned Cartier to transform this existing diamond bandeau into something even more spectacular for Nancy. And this is where the turquoise comes in, and where you can really see the design influences of the era. Cartier, at that time, was masterfully blending Art Deco aesthetics with motifs inspired by Indian and Persian art, what some call their tutti frutti, or Indian style. So they added these striking carved turquoise elements. There are 3 quite prominent fluted turquoise plumes, almost like feathers, each with its own diamond-set stem. Between these plumes, they interspersed a series of beautifully carved turquoise leaves, again accented with diamonds for that extra sparkle. And it doesn't stop there. The tiara's ends, which curve gracefully behind the ears, were finished with these wonderful fluted turquoise panels radiating out in a fan shape. It's such a bold and yet harmonious combination of materials and cultural inspirations. We actually have a wonderful photograph of Nancy Astor wearing this very tiara. It was at the London premiere of Charlie Chaplin's film City Lights in 1931. She's there in the theater balcony with her George Bernard Shaw and Charlie Chaplin himself, quite the glittering company. And you can see the tiara perched strikingly atop her fashionable finger-wave hairstyle, the ends curving just so. It really paints a picture of the glamour of that era. And here's a rather charming detail. Nancy apparently lent this tiara to her sister, Phyllis Brand, on at least one occasion. Phyllis must have absolutely adored it, because her husband, the Honorable Robert Brand, then commissioned Cartier in 1935 to create a similar turquoise and diamond tiara for her. It's not an exact copy, but very much in the same stunning style. And that sister tiara, the Brand tiara, is actually now part of the Cartier collection itself. In fact, it's been exhibited quite widely. You might even have seen it if you visited the recent Cartier exhibitions, for instance, at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. It really speaks to the impact and desirability of this particular design, that one inspired another so directly within the same family. So, when this Astor tiara came up for auction recently at Bonham's, after being in the family by descent for all those years, it understandably caused a huge amount of excitement. It's not just a beautiful object. It's a piece of history, a testament to Cartier's creative genius during a golden age. And of course, it carries the allure of Nancy Astor herself. It ended up selling for an absolutely incredible sum, just under £900,000. It really shows how much these pieces, with their provenance and unique design, are valued today, doesn't it? And the excitement around Astor jewels isn't entirely new. If we look back to 2014, Bonham's also presented this rather lovely natural pearl and diamond set brooch dating from around 1900. It's designed as a jabot pin, the kind that would have elegantly secured a lace cravat or scarf. What's really special here are the pearls. There are 4 of them, all natural saltwater pearls, and they have that wonderful, irregular Baroque shape that was so prized for its organic beauty. The largest, the surmount, has this delicate girdle of rose-cut diamonds around it, accented with 3 old brilliant-cut diamonds. Then, suspended on either side by fine gold chain connectors, are 2 more Baroque natural pearl drops, and the terminal, the bottom part of the pin, is another Baroque pearl, this one with a cap of old brilliant and rose-cut diamonds. It's all mounted in yellow gold, though the pin fitting itself is a later addition, and it's about 7 centimeters long. The story accompanying this brooch is quite charming. It apparently belonged to Nancy Astor and was gifted by her to a member of the current owner's family, which adds such a lovely personal touch, doesn't it? Then, just a year later, in 2015, another fascinating Astor jewel appeared, this time at Christie's. This was an antique diamond and natural pearl brooch, a little earlier in date, circa 1890. It's a different style again. The central focus is a beautiful natural button-shaped pearl, quite substantial, measuring around 17.5 millimeters across. This pearl is then flanked on each side by these lovely old-cut diamond clusters, all mounted in silver-topped gold, which was very typical of the period to enhance the brilliance of the diamonds. It's about 1 3/4 inches long, so a very wearable and elegant piece. This brooch also came with strong family provenance, a signed letter from Georgina Mary Astor Nelson stating that it had belonged to her paternal grandmother, Nancy Astor. It really highlights her fondness for pearls, a classic choice for ladies of that era and indeed for Nancy herself, who often chose them for her public appearances. And in 2019, Druette's auction house presented another truly show-stopping piece from Nancy Astor's collection, this stunning Edwardian aquamarine and diamond pendant, which could also be worn as a brooch. Dating to around 1910, it's a fabulous example of Belle Époque design, that wonderfully elegant age of elegance just before the First World War, and it certainly shows her appreciation for impressive colored gemstones. It's quite a substantial jewel, about 4 inches long. The main feature is a large, beautifully cut aquamarine, weighing an incredible 87.82 carats, framed with delicate diamond details. Hanging below this is an even larger pear-shaped or briolette-cut aquamarine drop, beautifully capped with more diamonds. The whole piece is set in platinum-fronted gold, a technique used to make the setting light and almost disappear, really letting those magnificent aquamarines take center stage and shine. What's especially interesting is their color, that natural, slightly greenish-blue tint. This suggests they haven't been heat-treated like many modern aquamarines, and were likely cut straight from Brazilian crystals in the early 20th century. The quality was described as top gem, sometimes called Martha Rocha color after a famous Brazilian beauty queen. This jewel was consigned for sale by Nancy's great-granddaughter, and there's a rather charming anecdote that it had been kept preserved in tissue paper in a little cigarette box since 1977. It's these little details that really bring the history of these pieces to life, isn't it? Now, to truly appreciate the kind of jewels Nancy Astor possessed and the occasions for which they were intended, it helps to understand the world she moved in. Cliveden, their magnificent estate, wasn't just an estate. You could almost call it Nancy Astor's personal Buckingham Palace. Prime ministers dined there, and in the 1930s, King George VI, Queen Elizabeth, and the young princesses were even known to dance on carpets laid out right on the balustrade. Evenings of such splendor naturally called for jewels of corresponding magnificence, the kind of spectacular pieces designed to be seen in the grandest company, and we'll certainly be looking at some of her most breathtaking tiaras very shortly. But the brighter the chandeliers at Cliveden, the deeper the shadows cast by public perception. In the tense atmosphere of the 1930s, newspapers dubbed her influential circle the Cliveden set, and whispers began to circulate, accusing them of holding pro-German sympathies and favoring policies of appeasement towards Hitler. These were damaging claims that significantly impacted her public image. Later, it became known that Lady Astor's own name was included in Hitler's Black Book, a list of prominent individuals to be arrested immediately in the event of a German invasion of Britain. Upon learning this, she reportedly retorted, "It is the best answer to the lie that Cliveden was pro-fascist." So, glamour and controversy often walked hand in hand in Nancy Astor's world, and every jewel she owned, every piece we're about to discuss, had to shine brightly enough to hold its own under that intense, often critical public spotlight. Now, we come to a jewel that isn't just Astor family legend, but a legend in the entire history of famous gemstones. I'm talking, of course, about the Astor tiara, crowned with the truly historic Sancy Diamond. This isn't just any diamond. Its story is like something out of a sweeping historical epic, stretching all the way back to the 14th century, possibly even earlier, with whispers of Indian Mughal origins. The Sancy itself is a pale yellow shield-shaped diamond weighing a significant 55.23 carats. And its list of previous owners? It reads like a who's who of European royalty and nobility. It's said to have belonged to Charles the Bold, Duke of Burgundy, then passed through the hands of Portuguese and French monarchs, including King Henry III and Henry IV of France. It even spent time in England with King James I and later James II. There's a famous, rather dramatic tale about a loyal messenger for Nicolas de Harlay, Seigneur de Sancy, from whom the diamond gets its name, who supposedly swallowed the diamond to protect it when ambushed, only for it to be recovered from his stomach after his death. Whether entirely true or embellished over time, it adds to the mystique, doesn't it? After the French Revolution and the infamous theft of the royal treasury, the Sancy had a few more adventures before it was acquired by William Waldorf Astor, the first Viscount Astor, in 1906. He then had this incredible diamond set by Cartier into a magnificent Belle Epoque tiara. And this, of course, was that truly spectacular wedding gift from her father-in-law we mentioned earlier, a very personal welcome into the Astor family. The tiara itself was a stunning creation of diamonds and platinum, designed in that graceful, elegant style of the early 20th century, with scrolls and foliate motifs, all building towards that spectacular Sancy at its pinnacle. And this was the tiara that Nancy, as Viscountess Astor, wore for the grandest of occasions. We see her in it in portraits, and notably, she wore it for the coronation of King George VI in 1937. It was clearly her most important and valuable tiara, holding both immense historic and personal significance. Her maid, Rose Harrison, gives us some wonderful, very human glimpses into life with such a treasure. Rose mentioned that of all Nancy's tiaras, this was the most beautiful and valuable. She also recounted how an imitation of this tiara was made, likely for less important occasions or for lending, probably to ease concerns about security and insurance, which, as you can imagine, were considerable. Rose even tells a story about the Sancy Diamond itself being lent to Nancy's sister, Nora Phipps, who wore it on a simple gold chain for a ball. Apparently, it went missing during the party. Imagine the panic. But thankfully, an under-housemaid found it under a carpet the next morning, likely swept there by the long dresses. Close call. And during the Second World War, there was apparently quite the kerfuffle about moving the diamond from the bank in London to safety near Cliveden. After Nancy Astor passed away in 1964, the Sancy Diamond remained with the Astor family for a while longer. Then, in 1978, her grandson, the fourth Viscount Astor, sold this legendary diamond to the Louvre Museum in Paris for a reported $1 million, and that's where the Sancy Diamond resides today, exhibited alongside many of the French crown jewels, a fitting home, given its rich French royal history. As for the Cartier tiara frame that once held it, its fate is a little less clear. It might still be with the Astor family, perhaps reset with a different stone, or its story might have taken another turn. That part remains one of the intriguing little mysteries surrounding the Astor collection. But the Sancy tiara often shared the stage with another magnificent jewel, a spectacular diamond stomacher. These stomachers, incredibly fashionable from the 17th century right through the Edwardian era and beyond, were large, elaborate corsage ornaments designed to adorn the front of a bodice, often cascading down in sections, and Lady Astor's was certainly no exception in terms of grandeur. We see it clearly at King George VI coronation in 1937, a cascade of diamonds paired with her Sancy tiara and diamond riviere. It was a favorite combination, worn again at the 1948 state opening of Parliament. The photos from that day offer a wonderful close-up of its intricate diamond clusters and foliate designs, all designed to capture the light. And it seems this was a favored combination for the most important royal events. Rose Harrison, her maid, recalled the preparations for the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II in 1952. Lady Astor, much to her surprise, had received a personal invitation from the Queen Mother to attend, and her granddaughter, Lady Jane Heathcote Drummond Willoughby, was even serving as a maid of honor. Rose wrote, "Then the jewels had to be selected and the Astor tiara cleaned. I must say my lady looked an absolutely perfect picture. She understood how to carry costume and how to move in it." And this piece, when you look at the photographs, does bear a rather striking resemblance in its overall style and grandeur to the famous Londonderry diamond stomacher, which many of you might have seen on display at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. Seeing the opulence of the Londonderry piece helps you imagine just how dazzling Lady Astor's own stomacher must have been in person. Clearly a jewel of immense importance, designed to impress, and undoubtedly succeeding. Beyond the jewels she wore for personal adornment or state occasions, Nancy Astor also demonstrated remarkable generosity, particularly towards the city she represented in Parliament for so long, Plymouth. And one of the most significant examples of this was a truly spectacular diamond and sapphire necklace. In 1959, a very special event took place. Lady Astor was awarded the Freedom of the City of Plymouth, a huge honor recognizing her quarter-century of service as their MP. And on this occasion, rather unexpectedly, she presented this magnificent necklace to the city to be worn by the Lady Mayoresses of Plymouth in perpetuity. What a gesture! The necklace itself is quite something. It's described as a very long diamond chain, almost like a diamond skipping rope, as one expert put it, set with diamond shamrocks and sapphires. It's thought to be a pre-First World War piece, possibly acquired from a high-class American jeweler around 1910, though the style is often associated with French craftsmanship. One of the fascinating things about it is its versatility. Apparently, it can be broken down into no less than 6 separate components, allowing it to be worn as shorter bracelets along with a shorter necklace, a very clever design feature of jewelry from that period. She herself was known to wear it separated as bracelets on each wrist. There's a rather amusing and slightly hair-raising anecdote connected to the day she presented it. On the way to the dinner in her honor, wearing the necklace at the time, a part of it, a pear-shaped diamond drop with 2 shamrock shapes, actually fell off and was lost. Can you imagine? She had to apologize that the gift was incomplete, but promised it would be made whole again as it was insured. And apparently her maid, Rose, later found the missing piece in the gutter outside where Lady Astor was staying. Rose even cheekily mentioned her right to the finder's reward, though it seems that fell on deaf ears. Years later, in 2015, this very necklace was brought to the Antiques Roadshow by the then Lord Mayor of Plymouth. The expert was, understandably, astounded by its beauty, its provenance, and its connection to such a famous figure. He valued it for insurance purposes at a staggering £500,000 to £600,000, calling it one of the most important pieces of jewelry he'd ever filmed for the show. It really underscores the significance of the gift and Lady Astor's enduring connection to Plymouth. Now, beyond the jewels with clear public records, the memoirs of Lady Astor's maid, Rose Harrison, offer fascinating, if sometimes tantalizingly incomplete, clues to an even more extensive tiara collection. Rose spoke of 5 distinct tiaras. We know the Sancy tiara was number 1. But what of the others? And a key question arises. Where does the magnificent turquoise Cartier tiara we discussed earlier fit into this count of 5, if at all? Rose doesn't explicitly mention a turquoise tiara in that specific list. Could it have been described by Rose in a way we haven't yet connected? Or was it simply not part of that core group of 5 she considered most significant at the time of her writing? It's an interesting puzzle. But let's look at what Rose did list. Second, she noted a bandeau of diamonds and pearls, a chic, fashionable choice for the era, perfect for Nancy's style, though specific images of her wearing one clearly identified as this tiara remain elusive. Third was an aquamarines and diamonds tiara. Given Nancy's stunning aquamarine pendant, a tiara with these gems would have been a magnificent sight, likely in a grand Edwardian style. Again, no definitive photo has surfaced. Fourth, and rather intriguingly, Rose described a spiky diamond tiara that Nancy bought herself. This description hints at a more modern, perhaps Art Deco design, reflecting Nancy's own dynamic personality. One can only imagine what this bold piece looked like. And the fifth, an imitation of the first, a practical replica of the Sancy Diamond tiara, for less formal occasions or lending, a common practice for safeguarding such precious heirlooms. So what became of this diamond and pearl bandeau, the aquamarine tiara, and that spiky one? Are they still with the Astor family, away from public view? Were they sold privately, their stories now obscured, or perhaps refashioned over time? These pieces, and the question of the turquoise tiara's place in Rose's count, remain some of the most captivating lost, or perhaps simply undiscovered parts of Lady Astor's remarkable jewelry story. So, Lady Astor's jewels sold, legendary, gifted, or elusive. They clearly reflect a woman of significant wealth and standing. From the regal Sancy Diamond to her personal, perhaps spiky choices, the collection mirrored her own complex and often contradictory nature. These weren't just ornaments. They were part of the public persona of a groundbreaking yet controversial figure navigating a turbulent age. Each piece, in its own way, tells a part of that intricate story. The fascination with Lady Astor and her jewels endures precisely because of this complexity. Some treasures are now celebrated auction pieces or public gifts. Others remain part of her family's private history, sparking our curiosity. What's undeniable is that both the woman, America's trailblazer in British Parliament, and her collection continue to intrigue. Her controversial legacy, intertwined with these glittering gems, still prompts discussion and reevaluation today. What are your thoughts on this perplexing figure and her treasures? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for joining me today as we explored the treasures of Lady Astor. Until next time.